So the title of my presentation is How Light Influences Sleep, Alertness, and Health. As already said by Mrs. Wing, I have a long time experience in the lighting industry, at Philips Lighting, now Signify, in all kinds of roles, and I was involved in a lot of trade organizations. And the last 10 years are really focused on the health aspects of light. And together as a few scientists, we founded the Good Light Group. We are a non-profit organization that focuses on the health aspects of light. If you want to know more, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Jan Denneman, and also on several social media channels as Jan Sleepman. Today, I would like to discuss 5 main topics with you. The first one is the so-called circadian syndrome, and that is related with our circadian rhythm. The second one is the role of light in this all and how that leads to better health. The third topic is, what is good light? What should we do? What is the right light diet? 4 simple steps to good light. And then, how is this all integrated with a healthy lifestyle? I will talk about the golden 3. And then later we have our question and answer session. So let's dig into the circadian syndrome. Let me ask you a few questions. First one is, are you tired but unable to sleep? Waking up unrested? Do you need an alarm clock to wake up? If I ask those questions, many people have to say yes for themselves, or they know people that have difficulty with sleeping. Another group of questions is, are you lacking energy? Do you have no concentration, no focus? Do you feel ineffective? Also, many people recognize those. They have to say yes on those type of questions. And the third type of question is a little bit stronger. Are you feeling down? Do we have winter blues? Do we have desire to snack on moments that are not good for it? These 3 areas have to do with sleep, with energy, and with mood. And if you have problems with these areas, you might suffer from the so-called circadian syndrome. And that means that your circadian rhythm can be out of sync with the time of day. Poor sleep is a widespread issue in the world. More than 40% of the people struggle with their sleep. And 20%, that means 1 of 5 people, sleep is a real problem that causes problems in their daily life, in the way they function, in the way they operate. It can lead to absenteeism or presenteeism or illness. So sleep is a serious issue. Let's start with a more positive story. Many people know that if they are on vacation, and it can be a winter vacation like this one or a beach vacation, after a while, sometimes sleeping problems decrease. They feel more relaxed, they feel more happy, they becoming more, showing more empathy. And of course, that has to do that when you are on holidays or on vacation, you don't feel the pressure, day-to-day pressure of what you of all your daily obligations and all your worries you have in your daily life. But it has also to do with the fact that when you are on vacation, you are much more in daylight than during normal life. And that daylight does your body very good. It's good for your body. And many people also have the experience that 1 or 2 weeks after their vacation, after their summer break, after their holiday, that relaxed feeling is completely gone. Because usually after vacation, they went back from a lot of daylight to very little daylight. And that all has to do with the circadian rhythm. When the first life on our planet evolved hundreds of millions of years ago, it had to deal with the fact that part of the day it was light and part of the day it was dark. And of course, you know, our Earth turns in exactly 24 hours around its axis. So the light and energy of the sun, has a rhythm of exactly 24 hours. And life has to deal with that. And the most fundamental process of life is the so-called circadian process. Circadian means roughly a day. And that circadian process is the most fundamental process that made life possible. And that's already since hundreds of millions of years. When mankind evolved, our type, Homo sapiens, roughly 20,000 years or so, 30,000 years, 60,000 years, we were always outdoors. We had to be. We were hunters and collectors. We lived with the day and night rhythm of the sun. We were always outdoors. And that was good. And so we were automatically tuned to the day-night rhythm of our planet. But 6,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago, the Homo sapiens became farmers. So we built little cottages to shield ourselves for bad weather, or we went into caves. But if you now look at today's society on the right side of this slide, we are shielding ourselves completely for daylight. And that causes a lot of trouble, the circadian syndrome. We, modern people, spend 90% of our lives indoors, shielded from daylight. And basically, we live our whole life in twilight, very low light levels. And that causes problems with mood swings, forgetfulness, low energy, and health issues. Now I'm going to explain what exactly that role of light is. The first thing is that circadian rhythm. The most well-known circadian rhythm for humans is our day-night rhythm. Part of the day we are awake, part of the day we are asleep. And during that 24-hour cycle, our body changes a lot. There are times around this time of the day, no, for me, it's now 9:30, we see a fastest increase in blood pressure. In the afternoon, early evening, the blood pressure is lower, So we get our highest body temperature also varies during the daytime, And important, our alertness and coordination and fast reactions time have also typical times of the days that they are optimal. And of course, very important are our hormones. And there are many hormones in our bodies, but especially cortisol is important. Cortisol is the stress hormone, and that needs to be released around 6 o'clock. If you stand up at 7 o'clock, that causes that you are able to show alertness and to be focused. And in the evening, at a certain stage, melatonin needs to come into your blood, because melatonin is the hormone of the night that enables you, supports you for better sleep. And then you have around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, a deep sleep. So this is the day-night rhythm that we have. Light is crucial for this, because light is the strongest mechanism that keeps our circadian rhythm synchronized with the time of day. The second thing is we have a thing in our brain that's called our biological clock. That's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the SCN. Those are about 200, about 50 to 100,000 brain cells that together form the master clock of our body. And that master clock is crucial. That sends time signals to all the peripheral clocks. Your liver has a clock, your heart has a clock, and so on. So it gives time signals to all the organs, but also to all the cells. Every cell of your body has a clock and has a 24-hour cycle. An important discovery was done in the year 2002. The so-called daylight detectors were discovered in the eyes. In the eyes, we know we have rods and cones that are responsible for the visual properties of the eye, so you can see, but also the spheres are discovered. And spheres, in the year 2002, they have only little function in the vision part of the eye, but they are strong for the biological clock. Here's what happens if light enters your eyes. These are the visual and non-visual pathways. So if light enters your eyes, the green signal goes immediately to the vision center in your brain. That's a very fast process. If you see something, then your brain is alarmed, and then you can react on that, or can read a book or whatever. Yeah. But there are also signals that go through those spheres, and those spheres are scientifically called IPRGCs, intrinsic photosynthetic retinal ganglion cells, and they directly couple to the SCN, but also indirectly to centers where melatonin is produced, and also directly to the mood center. For example, if on a cloudy day, suddenly in the afternoon, the sun peeps through the clouds, then if you see that, your body, you become happy suddenly. Yeah, you cheer up, and that's the effect of light enters the IPRGCs, the spheres in your retina, in your eye, and your mood center is positively triggered. But when start the light that enters your eyes, when will that react and send signals to the body clock to tune the body clock? The body clock is there. That has been investigated by a group of 18 scientists from several universities. It's a presentation out of 2002. And you here see on the vertical axis the normalized response, and on the horizontal the lux values. Of course, lux can vary a lot. So this is a logarithm scale on the horizontal axis. And what you can see is that at the reaction on melatonin suppression, which is suppression that's important for sleep, circadian phase resetting, which is important to keep a good day-night rhythm, and alertness, you need to have at least 500 lux the whole day. And at night, it's important that you are below 10 lux. And that's this, what I said, based on a report of the 18 scientists of the so-called Manchester group. They are not all from Manchester, they're from all kinds of universities, all kinds of schools, all kinds of disciplines, chronobiologists, neurophysiologists, sleep experts, and so on. And they collected a lot of experiments and drew together these conclusions that I just said. So you need during the day officially 250 melanopic EDI, less than 10 in the evening, less than one at night. And melanopic EDI is a difficult thing because that's not the normal luxes, but a little bit different. But since all LED lights are at least 50% melanopic, you could also say human beings need at least 500 lux during daytime, less than 20 lux in the evening, and less than 2 lux in the night. Now let me see why we are disrupting our circadian rhythm. If you look at outdoor lighting levels and the moonshit landscape, the light level is around 1 lux. At sunrise or sunset, the light level outdoors is already 500 lux. And during daytime, we're talking about 5,000 on a cloudy day, 20,000 on a partly cloudy day, and more than 100,000 lux on a clear summer day. But indoors, we stay the whole day in light levels that are far below those levels, even far below the level of 500 lux. And then I mean the light level that enters your eyes. So you need to put your lux meter and then keep the sensor of the lux meter at the position of your eye and measure the lux levels. You can see here that I am having much more than 1,500 lux here. I'm sitting very close to a window. It's a very clear day today, and so I'm reaching at least 500 lux. But in normal office situations, light levels are much lower. If you measure the lux at this level, the light level that enters your eyes, people get usually 100 lux or even lower. And that's too low, because your brain wants to notice that the sun has risen. And 500 lux is a twilight level. And during our stay indoors, we're staying the whole day in twilight. And that means that our body, our brain, doesn't see that our sun goes up. So if this is a typically what we usually see well-lit office, so it's well-lit in the sense that people can see very well. But we can say that light indoors is too dim during the day and too bright in the evening and at night for a healthy and happy life. The light doesn't match. The wrong light doesn't match the time of the day and disrupts our health. So we can basically say that indoor lighting is bad for health because it is not supporting our day-night rhythm, and it actually distorts our day-night rhythm. And how does that now exactly work? If we already have spoken about the circadian rhythm, our sleep-wake cycle, and this is a 24-hour scheme, where say around 10 or 11 in the evening on the left side of the slide, people start sleeping, and we go through 3, 4, 5 sleep waves. And at the morning, this picture at 6 o'clock, we wake up. And then you see that we also have several peaks of wakefulness during daytime. And these rhythms within 24 hours, they are called ultradian rhythms. But if the clock is not set right at one day, it starts running behind 20 minutes each day. So if you work for a week, in an office or a factory or a hospital or a school that's not properly lit, where you don't get those 500 lux in your eyes during daytime, every day you have your clock delays with 20 minutes. So after a week, you are 2 or 3 hours behind. That means if you go to bed at 11 o'clock in the night, your body clock could be at 7. That means that your cortisol level in your blood is still far too high, and your melatonin level is too low. That's the reason that you don't sleep well. You don't wake up rested, because there's a huge difference between your biological clock, what your body says your brain and your body do, and your bedtime. And this basically causes the so-called circadian syndrome. So if I recap this, the role of light, the circadian rhythm is important. That's not only with humans, but all living species have a circadian rhythm. Only humans are the only living species that voluntarily shields themselves off from daylight, from the intense daylight. We have a biological clock that's 50,000 brain cells that are functioning as the master clock of the body. That biological clock only listens to the daylight detector, and the daylight detector are in our eyes. Sorry for the Dutch word bolletjes, that's spheres, and they listen to the discovered spheres in the year 2002. By the way, in 2017, the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was given to Professor Hall, Rosbach, and Young for all their work they did in discovering this mechanism. And if you get the Nobel Prize for scientific work, it must be really important and useful for society. But actuality is that by today, we are still living our whole lives in twilight. Another view of the history of our knowledge of our biological clock. And the biological clock basically says light influences how well we function. The circadian rhythms were discovered around 1900. In 1919, There were already ideas, 1990, in that period. There were the ideas that light did more than only enable us to see, but there was not enough scientific proof. The spheres were discovered in the year 2002. Nobel Prize was given. The matrix was given, the recommendations what we should have at least in our eyes. Yeah? And the irony is that we're still living in twilight. What can we do about it? Four simple steps to good lighting. The best you can do is be outdoors as much as possible. Spend time in daylight. If you are outdoor when the sun is up, you always get a couple of thousand lux in your eyes. You have nothing to do for it. And the best thing is that you at least spend 2 hours outside. And the best time of the day is in the morning. If you're indoors, like my situation here, yeah, be close to a window and face the window, and maximum 1 meter from a window, because the light intensity of windows decreases very fast. So if you are too far away from a window, that doesn't help. Then the light level is below 500 lux. And the third option is, if you are indoors, make sure that you install electric light also during daytime that compensates the lack of daylight. And of course, a lot more light intensity, light levels, light solutions have to be installed. And also in a smart way. So this is a huge opportunity for the lighting industry, especially this part, because not everybody can stay enough time outdoors. And also in offices or factories or hospitals or schools, it's not possible always to sit 1 meter from a window. So making sure that the electric light compensates for the lack of daylight to a level of 500 lux. And today, 500 lux usually is received in a horizontal plane, but you need to get it on the vertical plane at eye level. And roughly you need to install at places where people are 4 to 5 times more luxes, yeah, in the lumens in the total installation. And in the evening, it's important that you dim the lights. In the evening, you should be below 10 lux. It's important that you start measuring with devices as a simple lux meter, because only $20 or so, yeah. You can also use apps on your phones. They also give a reasonably good indication. So make sure that you start measuring. And if you don't sleep well as yourself, then especially look at what light you get during daytime. What does good light bring to people indoors? Simply better sleep, more energy during daytime, you feel well, and of course, you still have good vision. If you look at the program, we are now at the healthy lifestyle. What does this all mean for lifestyle? If you look at a healthy lifestyle, and if you talk with friends about it, many people have ideas what that is, and especially in 2 areas. Nutrition. People know that their food intake is relevant for their health. They have some clue. not too much fat, not have a diversified diet, don't drink too much alcohol, don't smoke. So people already have a good clue for the nutrition part. The second element is activity. You need to move. You need to be active physically, but also mentally. And take also your moments of rest. The third element, so these two elements, they are covering 2/3 of the day. 1/3 sleep is also very important. And lifestyle coaches hardly talk about sleep because it's difficult for them to give really tips. You can't say, and at 11 o'clock you need to sleep well. And that's not a good tip, because the moment you go to bed, you cannot do anything anymore on your sleep quality. You can only work on your sleep quality during the day. And that whole sleep quality is mainly governed by the right light. During the whole day, for that moment of the day, you need to get the right light. And that not only works for your sleep, it also is good for your nutrition. Because if your body clock runs in sync with the time of day, you have a better digestion of your food. So it's more effective. You don't get as easily fat or obese from it. Also for your activity. There's a lot to do with the body clock. So these are the fundamental aspects of a golden tree. Golden tree, I call that, for a healthy lifestyle. And you see it in our logo of the non-profit organization Good Light Group. We focus in our logo on the body clock, basically, which is basically steered by light. In summary, light is the only signal that keeps our body clock in sync with time. Yeah, the body clock, that SCN, is an old part of the brain that can't read the time. It can only listen to signals from the light, from the sun, basically. Crucial is the right light at the right time. If you don't get it, and if you think, do I suffer from the circadian syndrome? Here are the effects of that circadian syndrome. On the short term, you have problems with not effective sleep, low creativity, poor memory, attention deficit, stress, impulsivity, and reduced empathy. That's where I started my presentation. If you suffer of one or a few of those, it might come as a consequence of the circadian syndrome that you suffer of. And then the answer is light. But there are also long-term issues, like mental health issues, weakened immune system, biological and physiological stress. And there are a lot of evidence studies that there is an increased risk of cardiovascular diseases, cancer, and diabetes. So it's serious, and many people suffer from one or a couple of those phenomena on this slide. And of course, not everything is caused by the circadian syndrome. There can also be other type of illnesses, being the cause of those problems. But if your clock doesn't run right, and whatever other medication you get, that's less effective. So make sure that you focus on a better synchronization of the clock. So the right light at the right time is crucial. Improve indoor lighting for the billions of people with an indoor job. During daytime, you must at least have 500 lux in your eyes. In the evening, and the evening starts roughly 3 hours before you go to bed, you must have less than 20 lux, and at night less than 2 lux. If you want to know more, you can download a lot of brochures and information on our website, www.goodlightgroup.org.